Hey people, Trish Wood here, and this is another episode of Coffee with the Convoy, where we check in with Tamara Lich and other people connected to the Truckers Convoy in Ottawa. We've got Tamara's back, we have Joe, we have David, who is running something called Shed Media, which is pretty fun, trying to connect truckers with media so that they can fully understand who these people are. And we've got David Freiheit back again. So it's a full show. I just want to start by saying that this show is the first show we've done since two things have happened. One is the declaration of the Emergencies Act by the Prime Minister, which feels pretty extreme to me. And I will say that people near and dear to me who are kind of conservative in their worldview are really shaken by what happened. And we're seeing condemnation from around the world about it too. So this is where we live in interesting times. And I think the scariest part of living through this interesting time is that people are not getting accurate, objective information that they need in order to understand what's happening around them right now. So we are, and that's been happening for 2 years, by the way. So we're all pretty anxious. It kind of feels like we're in an abusive marriage or something. Our nervous systems are always on fight or flight because of the way we've been living. This is really, it's a really, really bad time. So we hope to bring you with these little live programs we're doing some perspective that maybe you're not getting anywhere else. So there was the declaration of the Emergencies Act, but the other thing that happened was the hack of GiveSendGo, the organization that's been collecting money for the truckers' protest in Ottawa. And the names of the donors were published and given to a shock jock in Toronto. Mainstream media are now using the email addresses and names of people to call them and ask them why they donated to the Truckers Convoy, as if you need to explain yourself, right? I mean, you don't. But those phone calls, I'm sure with people, are having the effect of feeling like intimidation. If you do something anonymously or privately, and then all of a sudden a reporter is calling you about it, that's really scary. And media should know that. If they don't, they're dumb. And if they do, they're mean. So there's no good way of looking at this. Here's a couple of examples just before we throw to Tamara. I heard that yesterday a staffer for the Conservative Party of Ontario was fired for donating $100 to the truckers' protest. That is so anti-democratic. I don't even know where to begin. There's also a story of a baker. I read this in the paper in Ottawa. She owns a bakery. She gave a donation. She was doxxed and started getting threats for having donated money. Is this where we are now in this country? That if somebody donates to a cause we don't agree with, they should be threatened? I mean, where the violence and the threats seems to be coming from another direction here. You know, maybe that's who the Prime Minister should be looking at. People who are threatening people who donate to a protest that they happen to believe in what's supposed to be a free country. That was very scary for me. And then the other thing I heard is that a hotel in Ottawa, I won't say which one, that I was speaking to yesterday, also said that their phone lines have been tied up, obviously because people are going to Ottawa, but also because they too have been getting threats because they said some of the truckers had stayed there at the beginning of this thing. So what the heck is going on? Why all of the threats? Who is behind that? Who are the people threatening fellow Canadians who hold a different view? I don't get it. There's something else afoot here that I don't have the information to really delve into, because it feels kind of, to quote Joe Pesci in Casino, right? Nothing's on the up and up here. That's how it feels to me right now. So that's where we are. That's an update. And here is Tamara Lich, who is one of the leaders of the Ottawa Convoy, and she's been doing a lot of the administrative stuff. I don't know how she's still standing. And Joe, what's your last name?
Jansen.
Okay, thank you. So, Tamara, I'm just going to throw to you first because, well, both of these massive events. Let's go first because I was just talking about it to the GiveSendGo situation. What was your response when you heard that it had been hacked?
First of all, thank you for having us today, Trish. My response is that it's very disappointing. It's very disappointing that people feel the need. We have gotten so far into cancel culture. We are supposed to be a democratic country where we have freedom of choice and freedom of speech, and that's all being squashed. And it's disappointing. I don't find it scary, but I do find it incredibly disappointing. And my heart goes out to all these people that are getting these phone calls, right? It's up to them what they want to do with their money. People are allowed to support or should be allowed to support causes that they believe in.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about the bakery story is that she says in the article I read, oh, but now I realize the error of my ways. I was wrong to do that. And I thought, like, next we'll be sending people to re-education camps, right? That's
happening. That's happening already.
Yeah,
if
that's
you
how it
don't
feels.
mind, I'll tell you a quick story.
Sure.
Yesterday, I was out and about meeting with some truckers, and I was approached by two federal employees, and one of them is on suspension because she's not refusing to get the jab. She's on a 6-month suspension, and she cannot go back to work until she takes a vaccine COVID course.
I actually heard rumors about that. I did. And we will also recall Francis Christian when he was questioning the sanity of giving the COVID vaccine to children. When they fired him, and this is on audio, they were suggesting that he needed to see a psychiatrist. And this is what happened in the Soviet, right? They sent people to the gulag if they weren't towing the party line. I never thought I would see that in this country, but that seems to be where we're going. Joe, tell me about yourself. Why did you become part of this, and where are you from?
Well, from Manitoba. I just kind of seen how everything was going, and I joined on, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world, actually. The drive here was so warming. How many people were in each town supporting it. How much food and everything was given out. It was amazing. I've never seen anything like it before.
Well, we must never forget the people hanging over those overpasses cheering you guys on,
Yeah.
right? That seems to have been forgotten now that I fear that some of the narrative is taking hold and that those jubilant days are kind of in the rearview mirror. I hope I'm wrong about that, but what do you guys think?
If you took a walk around Parliament Hill, you would think otherwise. There is still a lot of love and a support and a sense of unity here. People are happy. They're hugging. They're kissing. They're smiling. It's still incredible.
Yeah.
What's the status of the money now? Like, what can you actually obtain the funds? I know that there was this court action saying that you couldn't. GiveSendGo said they weren't going to play ball with it, that the Ontario courts had no jurisdiction in Boston, which I think is where they're from. What is the update on that?
Well, the update on that is that we still can't access it because as soon as that goes into a Canadian bank account, it'll be frozen.
Right.
So we are dealing with TD Bank at the moment. I was literally up here the other day printing off statements of those accounts, and I watched the balance go from what it was in there to not available, NA. So they took those funds. It's now sitting with the court, and we'll be dealing with that this week.
Wow. I want to ask you about what Justin Trudeau did the other day. Were you expecting it? And what did you think as you were watching it?
Ironically enough, when that announcement came out, I was sitting with former Premier Brian Peckford. He's a lovely man, and that was an incredible honor. Excuse me. And I just think it's desperation. It's incredibly disappointing that he feels the need that that has to be invoked when he hasn't even sat down and talked to any one of us. It seems like a bit of an overreach and a bit of an overreaction. I mean, again, we have bouncy castles, right? We have children here. We have elderly here. There's disabled here. You know, this is not a violent crowd.
And what was your, or what is your response to the fact that, has he not reached out? Has anybody from his cabinet or anybody in his purview ever approached you about having a conversation ever since you started?
Not to my knowledge. And when this whole thing started, before we even left, Gerald Butts, of course, was on Twitter already. And I invited him for coffee multiple times, numerous times, and to sit down and talk with me or talk with us. And they won't.
What is your, have you had legal advice, and what is your understanding of what legal jeopardy you might be in now that this has happened? How does this change your reality?
Trish, to be honest with you, I don't really focus on that. We have a mission here. Our mission is to restore the rights and freedoms of Canadians. And we have a great team of lawyers here, and I trust them with my life. We know this is our last chance, and I just let them do their job.
Are you expecting that there will be an action against you in the next day or so?
There might be. I can't say. There could be. Nothing would surprise me at this point, Trish.
Yeah. And if that happens, what will you do?
This is my hill. And if they feel that they need to arrest me, then I guess that's what they need to do.
Yeah. And I do have to ask you about the Coutts arrests over the weaponry there. I know that Mr. Bulford made a video about it yesterday that was quite interesting. So just please respond to that, because that's an upsetting thing to see, and it is going to reflect badly on everybody. So what is your position on this cache of weapons? And now some really serious charges have been laid against those people. What do you make of it?
To be perfectly honest, Trish, I don't know enough about it. We are busy here from sunrise till early in the morning, the wee hours of the morning. So I've heard rumblings of it, but I haven't had a chance to fully investigate it myself. What has happened is these groups have, they're organic, right? Canadians are upset. They're not directed by us. These are their own groups that have come together, and they're doing their protest in their own ways. Yeah. So I would hesitate to comment, because I literally don't have time to sit down and go through a lot of these stories.
But yeah, and as I understand it, though, Corporal Bulford said that they even had been warning the police about this, that they got some information, and that they, I guess what I'm getting at is the idea that there was, as I understood from his video, some proactive response on the Ottawa Convoy's behalf about that.
I did see a video of them hugging, actually, the police and the people there. They were hugging. So it makes it kind of odd.
Is that a horn? Yeah. Okay, so why are they honking now? What's going on? Do you know why they're honking now? Is there any particular reason, or just high spirits, I guess?
He's muted.
It's muted. Okay, you guys. So can you guys? Yeah. So what do the next couple of days hold for you, Tamara and Joe? And then I'm going to let you go and move to David.
Just try to keep the morale up. Walk around, talk to drivers.
You're a captain of a certain area, right, Joe? Is that correct? Yeah. And the drivers in your area, how is their mood, and what is their commitment to stick?
There's a lot of rumors going around that, we need to be worried about this Emergency Act, stuff like that. And I reassure them that, don't be worried about it. It's desperation. I kind of get them calmed down a little bit, and majority of them know that it's a lot of mind games being played here. So they've kind of learned that in the last 2 weeks, plus that they've been here, that there's a lot of stuff that flies around, right? So
He does seem determined, though, to do something. So we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens there. Do you think you'll manage through another weekend, you guys, or do you think?
when the weekend hits, it's nuts here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But do you think they'll allow another weekend like that to happen? I know it's been very much like a festival on the weekends, but do you
Yeah.
think what's your sense of when they might start doing something there?
It could be days, it could be weeks. I mean, who knows? Like I said, nothing would really surprise us at this point. I think we'll be fine throughout the week, because we are not doing anything wrong. We are here for a peaceful protest. A superior court judge has acknowledged that. So, I mean, what can they do? This is
Yeah.
a movement of love and unity. Canadians are feeling proud of their country again. I've said it a million times. The one word that we hear the most is hope. Hope.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid.
You know, there were demonstrations outside the Canadian consulate in New York yesterday on your behalf, so that's interesting.
Yes, they were
Yeah.
chanting, I think we're all Canadians now.
Yeah,
Right?
it's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, guys, I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for doing this. Grateful.
Thank you. You have a great day.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, Joe. Bye, Tamara. Hi, David.
Hello, how you doing? I must apologize for my friend Mike. He just likes to let the world know he's awake now, so that was his honking.
Was that him? Okay. No,
Yeah.
it's totally appropriate, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's dark. So, David Paisley, you started something called Shed Media, which we'll talk about in a minute. I want to, though, ask you what you're doing there in the first place. How did you end up in Ottawa at the protest?
Yeah, well, it all began on the Thursday when the first wave of vehicles from Southern Ontario was headed to Ottawa, and I got off work early and I headed off to an overpass, and not knowing if I'd be the only one, like many Canadians, and I just knew of an overpass where there was parking nearby, so I went there, and I was almost immediately brought to tears with several hundred people there with flags, signs, young and old, and just this incredible atmosphere. And I watched that first wave of Southern Ontario vehicles head to Ottawa, and I said, I need to go to Ottawa. So I reached out to a few of my friends. One of them's a trucker himself, and 5 of us climbed into his pickup truck, and Friday we headed to Ottawa with the second wave of Southern Ontario vehicles. And every overpass that we went past from Southern Ontario to Ottawa had at least one person. Sometimes it was literally one person standing there in the freezing cold, waving their flag, and at many overpasses, dozens, hundreds. And even in that initial journey, I was brought to tears and filled with a hope and pride in my country that I hadn't had in years. And so I got to Ottawa and started to just help out in any way I could. And by the end of the weekend, I told my friends, I said, I got to stay here. So I reached out to my boss, and thankfully he was supportive and allowed me to stay, and just spent the last number of weeks getting more involved. And now I serve as a captain as well on Wellington Street. And that's just a fancy title to say I help care for these drivers and help get them the things that they need. And these have become my dear friends and my brothers, and we take care of each other, and that's how I ended up here in the first place.
You said you were weepy. What was that about? What was the emotion behind that, David Paisley?
Well, to spend these 2 years often feeling alone and feeling, well, literally alone. I live alone myself. I'm single, and to be told that I can't see people. I'm a very social person, and I spent my one birthday, alone on the couch watching Netflix because nobody was comfortable spending time together. And those were very difficult times. And for the first time in my life, I reached out to a counselor to help me process that and help me cope. And thankfully, as things move forward, I had some dear friends who were willing to break the law to spend time with me. And I remember at the early stages having to sneak into my parents' house. They'd open their garage door and I'd drive in and they'd close it so the neighbors wouldn't see. And just these terrifying things just to have family, to have community, to spend time with people I love, and to fear repercussions because of those things that should be very basic rights, certainly in a free country like this.
We are not meant to be kept apart for long periods of time, and why public health could not figure this out and figure out a better way to do it. I'm a fanatical focus protection person because it's the only thing that makes sense, and it's where we're going to end up anyway. But it just makes no sense. This has been so hard on people. People have really paid a very, very heavy price, and I'm sorry you did. So let's talk a bit about what Shed Media is, because my understanding is that you set it up to help the truckers maybe tell the story a little bit better, because the media weren't telling the story in a sort of an organic way. They seem to have a preordained narrative that they were sticking to, and you guys are kind of a narrative buster, right?
Yeah. So one of my good friends here now is a guy named Jay. And if you've seen images of the front line, as it were, in front of the Peace Tower, there's a big black Freightliner with a shed built on the back of it, the shed that I'm in right now. And this sort of became a meeting place for a lot of things. There's a couple of beds here for guys to sleep, just a place to warm up. And then a few of our friends got the brainwave to put a stage on top that would allow media and photographers to see the incredible crowds and see what a great thing was going on here. Yeah. And then, we started connecting with media and then reaching out to truckers and just linking them up so they could share those stories. And then we've been posting on social media, sharing our stories as well. And just because I saw what was happening in our mainstream media in Canada, especially, thankfully more international stations have picked up and are sharing our stories. And I was horrified because this is not what I'm seeing every day. And even friends back home, they still thought this was a few crazies and a couple trucks. And I said, this is so much more. This is incredible. This is beautiful. This is a coming together of the Canadian spirit like I've never seen before, certainly never in my lifetime. And so I wanted to share those stories. And so we started Shed Media. We have a YouTube live stream that just I have going right now, just so people can kind of see what's happening outside and see the crowds build and actually see firsthand what's really going on. So we've been going around, and a little later I'm going to take you over to one of our truckers so you can meet him firsthand. And
it's a big love story. It's a love story.
Yes,
right?
yes, you'll meet the two of them.
Now, okay, so yesterday when we were talking, you had a great C.S. Lewis, one of my favorite Christian writers. What was the quote and what does it mean to you? It was really important.
Right. So I shared with you the quote from C.S. Lewis where, I don't remember the full quote exactly, but he uses a term called chronological snobbery, which is, and I can just imagine in his fine British way of speaking, using that term, and you'll see it in his writing a few times. And chronological snobbery is the belief that we modern people, we know better, and those old people back in the day, they were foolish, but now we know better. And this whole situation has reminded me of that chronological snobbery, the belief that oppressive governments, that taking away of freedoms and basic human rights, that can't happen in our Western world, that we're past that. We don't do that kind of thing anymore. But it's happening right now, that when I hear these stories of people who, not able to go watch their daughter's dance recital, not able to go to their kid's soccer game because of personal choices that they've made, private decisions that they've made with their healthcare providers and their families. And to see that happening right here, right now, reminds me that chronological snobbery is still alive and well, and that we must remember that these things can happen again. They've happened before and they've happened again. And I'm not for a second, saying that we are, that this is a terrible country now and that we have no freedoms. And I certainly still want to celebrate this great country that we have. The goal here is to ensure that, we've hit a line here that many of us have said, this is not right. This is not the direction that we should be headed. And it's time that we turn around and we head back, because we're headed into territory that history tells us is wrong and leads to very dangerous places.
Yeah, there is an historic phrase. I won't get into it too much here because it requires deep thought and context, which we don't have time for today. But there is an historical precedent for something called the bystander. And a great historian suggested that the bystander is actually the most dangerous part of a tyrannical uptick, because they have a little piece of it, but they don't acknowledge it's happening. It's a criticism of bureaucracy. It's a criticism of technocracy. It's a criticism of people who kind of know something's happening, but don't really engage with it in a meaningful way. I'm going to talk about it more on my mainstream, or the main episode of my podcast, which drops on Friday night. But I think we're sort of saying the same thing. Okay. Show me the cards from the children, and then I want you to march over with your phone to the truck containing Ashley and Tyler. Tyler being a trucker and Ashley being someone who was there who met Tyler, and they're having a bit of a sort of a protest romance. So that's
I want to show you.
Yeah.
This is these are just
oh
from
gosh.
from Jay.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is what grabbed my heart initially when I started meeting truckers and spending time in their trucks. And each of them has a box full of these. The guys from out west, especially, they have boxes overflowing with them. But this is even just from Southern Ontario. These are just cards and letters from children and families all over this country. And I want to read you one here that I think is quite special.
Yes, do.
This says, "Dear Mr. Mrs. Trucker, thank you for standing up for what is good, true, and right. May God be with you. You remind me of Daniel in the lion's den and David and Goliath. These men had courage, just like you. You came from all over Canada to one place for a very important reason. Keep being strong and courageous. Sincerely, Talia, age 7. And there's a nice little drawing of a truck at the bottom.
Oh, look at that. So I'm a little verklempt after hearing that. Children's things always get to me.
Yeah, and these,
lovely.
It's incredible too to see these, these hardened truck drivers. Many of them don't shed tears too often, and we're all brought to tears every day from just the love and support coming from fellow Canadians.
Amazing. Well, big galoots, that's what we call them, right? The big galoots. And they're all like, scratch them and they cry at puppies and children. Okay, so
we're going to go meet Tyler?
Yeah,
okay,
thanks.
So I'm going to flip it around. This is our insulated door. Oh, we have visitors. Hold on, I'm just coming out. So we'll come out of the shed here, and we're right here in downtown Ottawa.
Oh, there we go.
So there's the Peace Tower right there.
Set up for
and this is the front line. So just come on down. This is the shed truck.
So the front line meaning what? Can you just give me a quick?
Well, it's where the two convoys met. So we had the Quebec convoy come in from the east side of Wellington Street, and the Ontario convoy came in from the west side. So it's where two lines meet, and then it's become the gathering place for the crowd. So this is the main stage where you'll see different bands and different activities happening. So we've just come to nickname it the front line. So we'll take you down to Tyler's truck.
Yeah, do please.
And
so
these
what?
Are all signs that people have left here just to remind the government why we're here. Liberté, freedom.
That's amazing.
And there's the line of trucks that heads all the way down Wellington Street. And this is Tyler's truck.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to hop in the truck with him and pass it off to him.
That's pretty good looking truck. Wow.
It's a beautiful Kenworth. That's his baby. Okay, here we go.
My father was in the trucking business, and when he died, my mother arrived at the funeral in a truck not unlike this. So I appreciate
here's Tyler. Say hi.
Hi, Tyler.
Okay. So I'm going to switch it over and give him the headset.
Good. Okay. You guys, you got it. Hi, Tyler.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Is Ashley there too, or not this morning?
No, not this morning.
Okay, okay. So how you doing there? Where are you from, Tyler, in your beautiful blue truck?
I'm from Hamilton, Ontario.
Yeah, and what are you doing there? Tell me why you went.
Went to fight for freedom.
Yeah, and what do you mean specifically? What aspect of the public health response is bothering you the most that it would make you go there and stay for a while, right?
So for the last 2 years, through the mandates the government has brought in, I've seen Canadians lose their rights and freedoms. Like you can't open your business, you can't go to a mall, you can't travel, stuff like that. I'm just sick and tired of seeing it. People lose their livelihoods. Like I myself, I can no longer do my job because I'm not allowed to cross the border.
Yeah, yeah. And is that, did you have a kind of a moment where the seriousness of what was happening struck you, or was it more kind of incremental that, you sort of comply and you comply and you comply, and then, it just feels like maybe you've been complying more than you're comfortable with without a better explanation for why you're doing it? Or what was your kind of moment of truth, Tyler?
For the whole time, I got like maybe about the first month or whatever I was with it. I was okay. If you comply, it'll bring us through it. But then once you see everybody's complying with the mandates, and then nothing is changing at all, things are only getting worse for us. That's when I was like, I got to do something. I didn't know what to do, and then I found out about the convoy, and then it brought me here.
So tell me what your days are like there. Do you sleep in your truck there?
Yes, I do.
How do you stay warm?
I have a bunk heater, so I don't have to provide heat without running the truck all night.
Yeah. Is it cozy?
Oh yeah, I got all the comforts of home in here.
Yeah, the truck sleeping arrangement always struck me as the sailboat sleeping arrangement, right? Like it's pretty compact but really cozy. I always really like that. I feel really kind of held in those situations. So I can imagine it's probably pretty pleasant, right? As long as you're warm.
Oh yeah, I love it. I sleep better in the truck than I do at home.
And you got your own blankie and stuff, whatever.
Oh yeah.
The stuff we need to comfort ourselves. So what do you do all day? Like, do you have a schedule of, do you wander through the protests, or what do you do?
Majority of the day I sit in here and I just honk and wave, listen to people's stories when they come up to my window, and then sometimes I'll go out and wander around.
Yeah, and are you getting a lot of positive feedback for being there? Do people come to Ottawa to greet you and knock on your window and say hello? Because I certainly saw that here in Toronto. People were very, very engaged by the truckers and wanting to talk to them and stuff.
Oh yeah, it's definitely all support out here. So like we have people that have driven all the way from BC to come out and see the convoy and everything.
Yeah, and what do they say to you when they talk to you?
There's a lot of thank yous. A lot of people thank us and for bringing their hope back.
Yeah. People are weepy about what you're doing. Why do you suppose that is? Why is everybody weepy about this?
Well, it's because some people have lost a lot through the mandates. Like a couple people I've talked to, the one lady's father, he had passed away, and she's yet to been able to have a funeral for him and properly say goodbye.
Yeah.
So
those things are tough, eh?
Oh yeah.
Could you do me a favor and just show me the truck on your phone? Are you able to do that? Or is David there maybe to pick up the phone and show the interior of your truck? You don't have any Playboy pictures or anything.
No. No. Yeah.
What kind of a trucker are you if you don't have?
You just want to see the interior of the truck.
Yeah, I just want to see. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, there's a person back there. I'm sorry. That's really intrusive. I didn't mean for that to happen. I apologize.
No.
But I'm just sort of looking. I'm just sort of looking around. Could you kind of maybe turn it around just so I can see the other side of the truck and stuff? And
sure, I can try to figure it out.
if it's easy.
Yes.
If it's not, don't worry about
There
it.
we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay, oh wow. Okay, that's amazing.
That's right.
What does a truck? Let me ask you this question. What does a truck like that cost a guy like you?
It cost me, all taxes in and everything, it cost me $131,000.
Well, and do you make a decent living?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll never see myself doing anything different.
And why is that? What is it about it?
It's the freedom. That's the best way to describe it. Just the freedom.
Yeah. You know, when I was working back in the day, mostly in radio, part of what I did was drive places, right? So I would be dispatched to some town in Texas to do a radio documentary for CBC. And the most fun part of it for me, always, of anything, was going out in a car alone to drive somewhere with a pack of smokes and a Coke or a coffee, right? Or a Tim's, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, those, and if I had a 2-day drive stretching out ahead of me or a 1-day drive, I'd crank up usually a country station in the States, especially in the South, pretty fun. And that was some of the happiest times of my life, was being alone on the road on the way to doing a job. I just loved it, right? I guess maybe it's the same for you guys too, is it?
Oh, 100%. I do the exact same thing every single day.
Yeah. Oh, I quit smoking, but
Oh, okay.
but you know, it was a part of it. You know, it was really, really fun for me. Well, look, and sorry, where did you're from Hamilton, are you? And what do you have family members who are cheering you on, or is there division in that part of your life, or what?
There was division until the convoy started, I
Yeah.
guess. Because like my mother and my sister, they went out and got all their shots, but then they started talking about a fourth one. Like, hey, okay, something's not right here. It's kind of weird. And then then I guess they just kind of switched once the convoy all started, and they saw what it meant to people. So my whole family now is cheering me on.
And what if you could say something to Prime Minister Trudeau? You know, I mean, I don't understand why he's doing what he's doing, but I'm not going to dump on him here. What would you say to him in the most diplomatic way? What would your message be to the Prime Minister, given what he's done and not done?
Yeah, I think he just needs to come out and speak with us. That's all we're asking. Like, to try and resolve this, so we don't go back home.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I want some kind of an idea from you. I mean, the protests there have been peaceful. There hasn't been any violence there at all, and yet that's not how it's being portrayed in the media. What's it like for you to witness one thing and then see it portrayed another way in the legacy media?
I'm not shocked by it at all, just because the mainstream media has been like that the last 2 years. If something doesn't go along with their narrative, then they're going to try everything to rip it apart.
Yeah.
So, but I've never seen a violent protest that had bouncy castles and kids playing road hockey. So.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, David. So thank you very much for this. It's really nice to meet you. And also thank you, David Paisley, who's been acting kind of as our producer on the ground there with his phone. It's amazing for me to live in this world of where I can do this show. Everybody's doing it on iPhones. Like, that's how old I am. Like, I can't even believe this is happening. But yay, it's terrific, right? The technology drives me insane, but I'm surrounded by talented people who help me with that. So.
Right. Oh, we have
Who's this? Who's this?
just a little boy. Hello.
Hi.
We left our sign on the fence yesterday, didn't we? Yeah. You want masks in schools? Don't think your friends have sleepovers again? Yeah. Please try.
Awesome. You give me a fist bump? There we go. Give me a fist bump? There we go. That's what keeps me here, is that.
Yeah, I bet it does. A fist bump. Isn't that lovely? Okay, thank you very much,
No problem.
Tyler. Very grateful. And thank you, David Paisley, too, for facilitating this. And now we're moving along. Bye. Now we're moving along to Viva Fry, my favorite Convoy commentator of all, who is just killing it. Massive viewership for his YouTube channel, rightly so. It's amazing. And he's practicing kind of democracy in action journalism, unfiltered, uncut, totally objective, wandering around, showing the people who go to his YouTube channel what is actually going on the ground. What a radical idea. So hi, David. How are you doing? Tell me, I guess you're home. That looks like you're
my basement's something of a disaster. The kids were messing around in the studio. So it's not as in order as it typically is. But Trish, if you won't dump on Trudeau, I will.
Well, no, I have. So
because like you said, like it's journalism. It is what's going on in real time. And if there were swastika flags or Confederate flags within the crowd, people would have seen it because I wouldn't have edited it out. I've just been streaming live, talking to the people. 4 to 6 hours a day, sometimes 3 to 6 hours whenever I go. I've done it 10 days now. So people can just see. Someone was freaking out this morning. I don't know who she was, but an Ottawa politician or authority talking about the hot tubs and the bouncy castles at the protest.
Yeah.
It's insufferable, intolerable. Bouncy castles and hot tubs, while Trudeau is referring to this as an illegal, dangerous, extremist blockade. I mean, they're talking out of both sides of their mouths, lying out of both sides, and people are just too many people are not willing just to take the time that is required, if not to go down yourself. Just watch more than a CBC headline. Watch some of these live streams, and you will know and understand what's going on.
Well, and just let me make clear, I'm not defending the Prime Minister. I'm just trying to stay sane and not lose my shit. That's kind of what's going on here.
But you try to defend the Prime Minister. He comes out and invokes the Emergencies Act for the first time in its history on the basis of a national emergency, given what's going on. And then while simultaneously saying, we're going to revisit the COVID restrictions in the coming days as well. But in the meantime, let me just flex my tyrant muscles, invoke the Emergencies Act, and say that and threaten people with freezing their personal bank accounts if they're involved in the convoy. I mean, it's beyond petty tyranny. This is just overt, egregious tyranny.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I actually did one of my midweek meltdown YouTubes this week where I said the same thing. I said, this feels like a flex. Like, he doesn't have to do this. He did hint that he was going to maybe drop the mandates at some point soon, but he won't do it because it's like a child. I'm not doing this because they told me to do it. I'm doing it in my own time. Like, I just, and that coupled with the idea that he was speaking to Joe Biden about it makes me really scared because, is this big power flex from him, him signaling to the other kind of global elites that he's got these populist folks well in hand? That is how it feels to me today, that is what this is really about. If it was just about ending this, he would have said, yeah, don't really like what you're doing, but respect your right to protest. And we are going to drop the mandates in a few days. Just bear with us. And we're all Canadians here and peace, love, and popcorn. But he's not doing that.
No. And the Emergencies Act, the Emergencies Act, for those who don't appreciate, replaced the War Measures Act in 1988, has never been used. And Justin Trudeau invokes this. It's supposed to be used in the context of a national emergency, which threatens the state, threatens sovereignty, threatens the government. He's used it now for the first time ever for this protest in Ottawa and invoking the Ambassador Bridge blockade, which was over by the time that he declared the Emergencies Act, over in virtue of a court order that this outrageous convoy respected. And it's beyond a flex. It just degrades the value of law. It degrades the value of democracy. It degrades the value of the meaning of words when the most exceptional Emergencies Act is invoked because of a protest on Parliament Hill with bouncy castles and hot tubs. I mean, it's a clown world. There's no other way to describe it other than with that meme, that trope. It's a clown world, and he's the chief clown, just abusing of our laws, abusing of our system, and shredding our democracy and free Canada.
I am scared too for the first time. I've been scared all through COVID because as someone who'd been a fairly significant science reporter who can do proper research, I knew from the beginning that this was going to be a fiasco and have been saying so for 2 years. And I was worried about how groupthink and hubris and all the other stuff could send a public health response so far off the rails. That was scary enough, right? Oh my God, I think this is going to be the biggest public health mistake ever when they start tallying up the collateral damage. But this feels even more so to me, more scary when Ms. Freeland was talking about the seizing of bank accounts. This feels so like surveillance and monitoring and cutting people off just because they are enemies of, or they're perceived enemies of the government. It's really very, very scary.
Equate everything to terrorism. Make any critical aspect of the government terrorism. When they declared the Proud Boys a terrorist group, other than the fact that when they did that, I had never heard of the Proud Boys, and I don't think they've carried out any acts. I was like, why would they do this? and we're a family of lawyers, we're discussing, is like, well, designate them a terrorist group. It makes it very easy to seize their assets without, with less formalities than a non-terrorist entity. And he's doing the same thing here. Just call anybody, call this convoy a terrorist convoy, a disruptive, violent, extremist convoy, and then declare anybody who donated to the convoy fundraiser, which was there to support the truckers who've lost their livelihoods, which was there to support the movement to end these restrictions, declare them enemies of the state, and then empower the banks to unilaterally, without court orders, seize, freeze, or close down personal bank accounts if they're affiliated with the convoy, and immunize them from doing that. People are saying, like, the dictators in China and North Korea are looking at Canada and saying, whoa, what's going on there? I have a high school buddy who's in China right now saying, we're in China, we're looking at what's going on in Canada with horror, as if to say, even in China, this doesn't happen. And so congratulations, Trudeau, you've turned Canada into something that even people living under the repressive regime in China are saying, holy cows, I can't believe he's going that far.
You're a smart guy with an enormous brain and a big thinker. What do you think is really going on? For me, the doxing of the people on the list to a shock jock here, the calling of the people on that list by the media, it makes them feel really complicit. Like, it's just, did this happen with Black Lives Matter? They weren't doing that. So if you're not going to do that equally across all protest movements, then clearly the media also has an agenda they should not have, right? I mean,
It's obviously despicable. It's obviously despicable. First of all, a lot of the people don't mind being publicly identified. They put their names on the donor list, so you can,
yes,
on the web page, so it says X amount coming from whomever.
Yeah.
But the idea, it is surreptitious and subtle intimidation. Like having a CBC reporter call you up or email you saying, "Hey, just want to talk to you about the donation made in your name." I mean, this is 1930s level stuff, 1930s Germany level stuff. This is like the peak of communism, the lives of others, having your neighbors, having the CBC, having state-funded media dox, expose, and harass, or at the very least subtly intimidate political ideological adversaries. I mean, it's atrocious, but you would expect nothing less from a media that's subsidized by the very government that they're going out to protect by way of harassing and intimidating the people who would support a movement that is critical of the government. And people think it's okay because they think they're morally justified this time. It doesn't stop here. And my concern is that, Trudeau, whether or not they ever make good on this threat, it's sort of like when the media comes out and says some doctors are thinking we shouldn't treat patients who are at the hospital but haven't been vaccinated. They're setting the expectation. They're lowering the standard of decency of a civilized society. And that's what Trudeau was doing the day before yesterday. That's what Chrystia Freeland is doing. Even if it never happens, they've already planted the seed that somehow it's acceptable or even to be discussed in a free society that banks could unilaterally, without a court order and with government immunity, seize the bank accounts of people they think are supporting a cause that goes against the government agenda. I mean, it's atrocious. Congratulations, Trudeau. You have effectively destroyed any semblance of normalcy and decency in Canada. And his time in power cannot come to an end fast enough, and have someone who's responsible and will respect the Constitution take the reins and hopefully repair the damage that he's caused.
Where do you think this is going? Because with the new Emergencies Act declaration, the threats against people who've donated to the convoy, what are you expecting to see in the next couple of days? Is there a dampening of enthusiasm? Do you think they'll be cleared? Can they clear them? That's what everybody wants to know.
So there's two things. My understanding of the Emergencies Act, and to the extent that Brian Peckford also agrees that this is the mechanism, they've declared the emergency, or they've invoked the Emergencies Act. Within 7 days of that declaration, they need to put it to a vote for it to get ratified. So it hasn't been ratified yet. If it doesn't get ratified via vote through the House of Commons and the Senate, then the declaration is dead in the water. I don't think they're going to do anything with the declaration, personally, the invoking the Emergencies Act. I think it's an act of desperation from Trudeau to flex his muscles one last time before rescinding these COVID restrictions, the same way the provinces have now started doing one after the other, the same way blue states in the United States have been doing, and the same way countries across the world have been doing. So I think it's all going to happen in tandem in this order. that I sort of predicted a little while ago. We're going to do it, but not because you told us to, but because our medical experts who we've appointed are now telling us the science has changed. So we're doing it, but it's not because of you. And okay, the Emergencies Act will not get ratified, or we're not going to do anything with it. But we've tested the water, and we've let Canadians know that as a government, we're prepared to authorize banks with immunity to seize bank accounts. That's the way it's going to go down. I think
you're not expecting that they're going to be cleared out by cops and that they will find tow truck drivers to come in. You're not expecting those scenes to play out in front of Parliament?
No, I don't think so. I don't think, I mean, fingers crossed. And I say this not because the protests should go on. The escalation would be just devastating, and it would effectively, end any conception that I've ever had of what Canada I live in. I don't think they're going to do that. My deep impression is that they don't actually have the support within the police force to do it. When Trudeau invokes the Emergencies Act, it's to supplement where provinces don't have the assets or the resources to deal with the emergency. Quite clearly, Ontario has the resources and the assets to deal with this. Why they haven't been used? Truck companies calling in with COVID shows an underlying grassroots support. Police fist pumping the crowd possibly shows an underlying support. And I do hope that the very police who are being called in right now to carry out the orders of this petty tyrant appreciate that they have been forced to undergo a medical procedure, and that this convoy is protesting their rights, even if they were coerced or succumbed or decided to do it on their own. So I like to believe that there's an underlying admiration of this protest, even among law enforcement. I think it's there, but I might be projecting. But no, I don't expect the cops to come in heavy-handed, despite what one Gazette journalist here said on CJAD yesterday, that this is only going to end when they come in with batons and riot gear and a gun on the hip. That's only. Do you imagine today's liberals egging on a police state to come in and crush peaceful protest through violent police intervention? I mean, they've lost their mind. Sorry, they've lost their mind. I don't see it going there. I think it's gonna end gradually, but I think the convoy is going to be on Parliament Hill, and more of these movements are going to spur up across the country and across the world until the governments across the world say, we'll be judged for our mistakes in the future, but for now, at the very least, we're going to minimize our wrong.
Yeah, and we should look up the historical term bystander, because that's really at play here as well for people who aren't being more courageous. Okay, so how can people find you and support you?
Well, I don't need support. I'm on Viva Fry on YouTube and Viva Fry on Rumble. Okay. There are these things called super chats, ad revenue on YouTube. I like to remain independent, and if you need to support someone, support the people who really need it right now. I don't want to encourage anyone to support the truckers, because that might be aiding and abetting. I don't know what I'm allowed to say anymore. Thanks.
You'll be audited. You'll be audited, right?
I suspect that's in the works anyhow. But
yeah,
support the people who really need it, because people have lost their jobs and have suffered tremendously throughout this 2 years. So support them. But you can find me on YouTube and Rumble, Viva Fry. The angry Viva Fry on Twitter is the Viva Fry. And Robert Barnes and I, the lawyer with whom I do weekly live streams, U.S. civil rights attorney, amazing. We have a community in Locals called vivabarneslaw.locals.com.
Oh, I'm going to go there. Okay, so I'm going to say goodbye with one comment about what you just said about supporting people. Supporting people also is not just about money, right? I am seeing a lot of depression, mental illness, suicidal thoughts, drug addiction, relapse, all kinds of stuff. We need to be supporting each other mentally too, even if we are on different sides of this, right? People who aren't vaccinated are not terrible people, and people who got vaccinated are not terrible people. We need to be supporting each other again, because there is a psychic collapse underway in this country right now. People have been driven mad by their government and by public health, and we need to turn away from them and toward each other now to try to repair this as a community, right? Just pretend we're all watching the Raptors again during the championship season. We all got along then, right? So let's just bring back Kawhi.
A tyrannical government loves nothing more than the people fighting among themselves, because it diverts the eyes from the government itself. Just imagine if we weren't living in this terror, this fear, fighting among each other, thanks to Justin Trudeau, we might actually be looking at him and saying, 2 times ethics breaching, 3 complaints, corrupt, incompetent government with a country in the greatest debt it's ever been. Maybe we should stop fighting among each other, take a deep breath, and actually just hold the government to account.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for what you're doing. You're a brave guy, and this is super important. History will judge you very, very kindly, in my view. This is the best journalism out there. So thank you for doing
Thank
that.
you very much.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Bye. So are we still on? Yeah. Oh, okay. So let me just say, I'm Trish Wood, if you didn't know that. You probably do since you're here. Follow me on Twitter if you dare. I burn off a lot of anger there. I might do some deleting. I don't know. But I do it first thing in the morning when I'm just getting caffeinated. And but the main stage for me is our podcast, Trish Wood is Critical. View it as the thoughts and the content from a mainstream journalist, as which I was, host of the Fifth Estate on CBC for nearly a decade. As it happens, I was a science reporter, worked at the Journal, wrote a book about the Iraq War. I'm kind of a serious person on this stuff, and I realized 4 or 5 years ago that media was failing. Started the podcast 2 years ago after finishing a big film for a major Hollywood studio, and was pulled into the rabbit hole of COVID public policy and tyrannical governments enforcing public health policy in ways they shouldn't have been. So that's kind of what the show's about. And as we move through COVID, just so you know, we're going to be looking a lot at how that was able to happen. What forces were at play that allowed this to happen. That's not a small thing either. We need to figure it out. That we have been so easily tipped over into accepting incremental little tyrannies against ourselves and our fellow citizens and our country. It's like the frog in boiling water, and we have to figure out what set us up to accept those things so readily in that way. That's really important. So we're going to be doing a lot of that too if the COVID stuff ever ends. It might not. I hope it does. Anyway, so you can find us at Trish Wood is Critical. That's the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Stitcher. My website is trishwoodpodcast.com. And I hope to see you sometime soon again. Yes. Bye. See ya.